The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Now broadcasting from the Right to Offend Media Studios in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, art, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report Live with Sam Whitfield.
But giving offense is good. In fact, it's essential.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Monday edition of the Whitfield Report. I am Sam Whitfield, recording here at Right to Offend Media Studios for another Monday edition of the show, and I am so happy to be here. This episode may be a bit shorter than usual, but no less entertaining or informative nonetheless. And at least I hope so. So last week's Monday episode covered a bit of kind of the shift, as we're in some of the culture war stuff. And I used the example specifically of how the release of 007 First Light kind of symbolizes that woke DEI culture is dead, more or less, or I guess at least dormant in many cases, because that was a game that many fans, myself included, were somewhat worried would have a bunch of woke DEI LGBTQ nonsense in the game, or some anti-white propaganda, the usual stuff that we've seen from woke gaming companies. And it actually turned out to be a fun James Bond game where you can shoot and beat up bad guys and save the world, and also Bond beds a few hot women too. So we talked about that and some of the kind of culture war implications around that. I did talk a little bit about how the anti-woke people are getting just as silly as some of the woke people, how they've complained a bit about this. Because I guess, there were still too many diverse characters in the game for them, which is kind of, it's moronic, but whatever. I mean, overall, people like the game, and most importantly, James Bond fans, myself included, love the game. So really, that's what matters at the end of the day, right? And yeah, so the gaming front is pretty good so far. There are a few things that I'm kind of cautiously optimistic on, in the gaming sphere, and a few things that definitely look more woke, but we'll have to wait and see. Looking at you, Marvel's Wolverine, that coming from Insomniac, and considering what they kind of did with Spider-Man 2, I'm somewhat I don't even want to say I'm optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm just kind of cautious at this point with Wolverine. That's all I'm gonna say. But overall, I think the Cold War has kind of shifted, and that woke is maybe not completely dead, but definitely you know, dormant or, dying off. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, ladies and gentlemen, is someone actually brought this to my attention last night on X. I saw a post last night where someone just casually asked, hey, it's the month of June, and yet I'm not seeing very much, Pride stuff for June out there. So what's up? Why are we not seeing it? And that's a very interesting, question and a very interesting observation. Um, I can tell you this. I do know that Pride events are still going on. Even here in Florida, I've seen some, Pride events like advertised, in certain areas and whatnot. But overall, like, you're right. Pride is not, June being Pride Month is not the, corporate smorgasbord that it was in previous years. It's definitely a lot more low key, which honestly, I don't mind that per se. I think, some people automatically assume that, like, you know, conservatives and libertarians and moderates, what have you, have a big issue with pride overall. And maybe some do, but I think for the vast majority of us, myself included, we never had an issue with, certain groups just having, pride parades as long as it was respectful and, organized and not causing, a whole big thing. The issue that a lot of us had was this whole like corporatization of June being Pride Month during the Biden administration, where there was this big lead up to Pride Month in June and in previous years, and then they essentially made June being Pride Month like the only thing that really mattered, right? They even made it a bit like Christmas, where you would have like every single like fast food chain and a lot of restaurants would have like specific, pride cups and pride if you stopped into Dunkin' or Starbucks, you could get like pride coffee and pride donuts and that stuff. I remember it got so ridiculous a few years ago that like Call of Duty, I think for like 2 years or something, during June, they would completely like change everything and so that, there were rainbow bullets for Pride, and then like the blood effects and whatnot would all be like rainbow blood or something like that, which I don't really even know like why one would want to do that if you're, you know, whether you're being gay or not. It kind of actually goes against like the message that you would think, you know, like if I were gay, it would kind of be like the opposite of the message I would want to convey, right? Um, so I think, people got sick of that, of just the kind of the corporatization of Pride Month. And I think that's ultimately what, kind of people started getting fatigued. And we also had, the whole famous Bud Light fiasco with Dylan Mulvaney, where, Bud Light gave her, or gave him, I should say, because it isn't bad, gave him his own, like influencer pack and merch basically to show, for Bud Light. And it was, he marketed it as his, summer of coming out as a woman, or something like that. And there was obviously a viral backlash to it, and it didn't just hurt Bud Light, it hurt the entire Anheuser-Busch company and all the associated beverages that Anheuser-Busch basically carries. A lot of people actually went sober that summer, which like pluses and minuses, that's not necessarily even a bad thing. But, that just goes to show that, like, even Anheuser-Busch, the biggest adult beverage distributor, was not, left unscathed by, the Pride Month boycott and kind of the culture war backlash from all of that. And, I think we also found out later on during the when Trump finally got back into office and we started to uncover some things specifically with the Twitter files and whatnot, and also with the Doge audits, we found that a lot of government funds were going specifically to these DEI think tank groups that were specifically funneling money into Pride Month, propaganda and Pride Month events. So once the DEI got cut off from a lot of these, seemingly organic organizations that were tied to Pride Month, when you know it, they all went away. More or less overnight, some of them even. And so, since then we really haven't had that much Pride Month stuff being like perpetually advertised everywhere. And sadly, I think the other part is the reason why Pride Month isn't really as viral or visible as it once was is honestly because of the fact that the trans section of the LGBT, acronym, or however you want to put it, the trans radicals basically hijacked Pride Month from the rest of kind of the alphabet gang and made Pride Month all about them. And that's been a huge contributor to the backlash of some of this stuff because of all these school shootings and just shootings in general over the last few years that have been instigated by radical trans activists. And before someone in the comments, or in the podcast, tries to push back and says that those numbers are exaggerated or something like that. Well, we have those Catholic school shootings, multiple of them. We have the shooting in Pawtucket that Max and I talked about at the end of last year with trans violence. Most notably, and I think this was the big lead up to some of the backlash, was ultimately, I think this was kind of the death knell in kind of the culture war. And I think this was the big kind of backlash against Pride, even as someone mentioned yesterday, is Charlie Kirk being assassinated. And I know that the internet has now been diluted with all these conspiracy theories and all these, true crime podcasts and all these drama streamers who want to, try and monetize Charlie Kirk's death for a buck. But let's be completely honest here. Most of us know what happened with Charlie Kirk's assassination. He was talking, at a college in Utah, and someone asked him about kind of the whole transgender movement. And right as he was about to give his answer, someone shot him. Someone who identified as a furry and who had a trans lover, and who it was later found out when the FBI raided his apartment and got all of his, computers and accounts and whatnot. He was chatting with these radical trans groups and bragging to them even how he was going to kill Charlie Kirk, and then the FBI found messages to where it was bragging to his partner, or whatever you want to call them, later, that he had completed his mission and that he did it. And you had radical trans activists celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, and all these deranged woke leftists celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination mere hours, same day, as when it was, as when it became a story. And I know we've talked about Charlie Kirk's assassination a lot on this show, this year and kind of at the end of last year, as has most of the podcast sphere. And for good reason. It was a horrific event, and something hopefully will never happen again. But Charlie Kirk's assassination was kind of, I would say, the final straw with a lot of people in regards to the radical LGBT factions, and also, more specifically, the transgender faction and the transgender movement that has been pushing a lot of this woke DEI nonsense regarding Pride Month. Saying that if you don't, it's not enough for you just to simply not celebrate Pride Month. Even if you choose to just ignore and mind your own business, that makes you transphobic, or something like that. That's what they used to say. And clearly, no one is falling for that line of bullshit anymore. We're just simply not putting up with it. So, like I said, it's not that Pride stuff doesn't exist in, 2026, because it does. Just for the, for the majority of people, including a lot of gays and, like the one lesbian couple that I know, they're all ignoring it, pretty much. They don't care about it. Pride Month in June has become like, very performative to them, and it's become, overly corporatized. Basically, DEI and the woke lefties shoving it in everybody's face all the time for the last few years made it so that even, members of their own community, the more sane and rational ones who just wanted to be left alone, even they were driven crazy, and now nobody cares about it anymore. So, on the flip side of that, we now have things like 007 First Light, which features a masculine, rugged hero. Granted, yes, some people are saying, Patrick Gibson looks a bit young to be Bond, but I assure you, he and I are actually the exact same age, believe it or not. Which, I'd like to think that still makes me look youthful at, 31 and whatnot. But then we also have like the infamous hot Bond girls in the game. 3 of them, actually. Technically 4, even if you want to like include one of the secretaries that Bond has his way with in a cutscene. So we have that. We have the new Lara Croft model definitely seems feminine again. Granted, we might not have the same, we obviously don't have like triangle titties from the PS1 era, and like we sadly don't have the Nell McAndrew model again from like the PS2 era, but Lara Croft in this new game, she looks like a woman again, instead of like a woman who might also be a man and is purposely androgynous and whatnot, as we had during kind of the woke era. So things are kind of going back to normal. We also have, ladies and gentlemen, the return of boobs. Ladies and gentlemen. Not that boobs ever really left, but people have definitely noticed that the woke stuff is just not there in public anymore. And so now we have like a prime example of that. One of the accounts I follow, Bridget Fedesi, a comedian, she has a podcast. She actually made an observation about this. So we'll play that real quick. And yeah, let's
Swimsuit model
see
Penny
what this
Lane
is
went
about.
viral for bouncing down the runway. Boobs are back! Sports Illustrated Swimsuit model Penny Lane went viral for bouncing down the runway at Miami Swim Week. I really can't get enough of that clip.
Boobs.
I, for the record, called this 2 years ago that boobs are making a return to the mainstream. This week, I got in trouble for writing about Sydney Sweeney's boobs. In a shocking development, a blonde giggling with big jazungas. Gazungas. Sydney Sweeney, God bless her, pioneered this comeback, and we thank her for her service to this great nation. Boobs will save the world. I've said this for over a decade. We need boobs to stimulate the libido so that we continue to populate. Boobs will save the world. And it was when we started demonizing boobs that things really took a turn downhill.
Yeah, she's not wrong. And for the record, I've been saying that longer than 2 years, Bridget. I've been saying that for the last decade. Also, Penny, if you're watching this podcast somehow, call me, reach out to me, whatever. I'm available. But yeah. So, not that hot women ever left the mainstream, but we're not getting smothered by the woke stuff anymore. We're getting smothered by boobs again, culturally at least, as it should be. Damn it. Which is great because this woke nonsense, it's gone on for too long, and yeah. So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, overall, I think we've noticed a shift. The Pride Month has kind of, it's still there. It's just kind of taken a back seat. As it should. There are other things, in the month of June that deserve recognition too. Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, which I am glad to see has been featured a lot more and has gotten more visibility this year on the mainstream. I do think that is important to be highlighted. Father's Day obviously is getting mentioned and talked a lot more in the month of June, and also, ladies and gentlemen, I'm already seeing, even though it's not July, I'm already seeing people talking out America 250, right? This upcoming 4th of July is America's 250th birthday. And already, we're only in the beginning of June, ladies and gentlemen, and already I'm seeing people talking about, what their plans are for the 4th of July, and people are excited for the 4th of July and Independence Day, and people want to, maybe go to Washington, D.C. I'm seeing a lot of chatter, trying to get tickets to, D.C. to maybe go to like the big parade. Things like that. People are already planning their barbecues for Independence Day and neighborhood parties and whatnot. It's going to be a huge deal for America's 250th birthday, and you love to see it. I love to see it. People are already flying, flags in their profile, their American flags, which we love to see. And yeah, so things as far as like the culture war are definitely shifting more positively. That's not to say that the woke mind virus can never return. I think it is a scourge that could always return. And in fact, one of the kind of concerns that I have right now is I think people are we have such short attention spans, and people are, getting so comfortable living in this non-woke era right now that we're not seeing that, hey, the woke mind virus could come back in spades. And honestly, I think that's kind of why you're seeing all this infighting kind of on the more conservative libertarian side that we've had to deal with over the last few years. And my concern is that we're getting too comfortable and we're not going to see the woke mind virus, roaring back. But Max, Morthus, and I are all keeping an eye out on it. We're not going to let these, woke freaks come back if we have anything to say about that. Speaking of woke freaks, though, and I'm not going to dive too much into this topic on today's show because I really want to save the bulk of this for Wednesday's show when we talk at it with Max and Morpheus. But because it was in the news like at the end of last week and on, over the weekend, I have to talk about the whole, Jesse Ridgway situation, the McJugger Nuggets situation. Now, for those who don't know, Jesse Ridgway, aka McJugger Nuggets, I think that's his name. He is a YouTuber who, for lack of a better term, he was posting slop on the internet and on YouTube long before AI slop became a thing. Like a good 10 to 15 years ago, he started like posting these just absurdly trashy, just slop videos. He most famously, the only video that I really remember is he was the one who made that video where it was like angry dad smashes kids Xbox, and it was a video of an angry dad ripping his lazy son's Xbox from the TV and then smashing it in the yard with a baseball bat and whatnot. Yeah, that video, that was him. And turned out that was fake and all for clicks and views. And he's done videos similar to that, several times. And some of them are downright sick, too. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he actually, maybe not him directly, but he was involved in it for sure. I think one of his family members like faked cancer and like tried to get GoFundMe money for it. Like, this guy has produced non-stop slop content. Well, he and his wife are back in the news this past week because they announced a few weeks ago that they were pregnant, and they made a video about it, like announcing it, which, okay, yeah, that's the other thing. This couple, this guy and his wife, this family, they film everything they do. Like, it's a little 24-hour reality show, more or less, with them, where they document their entire lives on social media. It's really odd and really bizarre, to me, honestly. And this is why a lot of us, have the ick from kind of this whole influencer thing. Is it's one thing to do a podcast like this, or it's one thing to promote a book or a podcast or whatever, but these people just, they stream their lives pretty much like 24/7. And so they made an announcement video like a few weeks ago, basically saying they were pregnant, and all that, all good. But then this past week, they made a follow-up video where they revealed that that I guess their would-be child, they had like a screening for genetic disorders, and this couple announced that the genetic screening revealed that their child has Down syndrome, or that there's a high percentage of Down syndrome. And Jesse Ridgway and his wife, they basically, in the video, said that they have terminated their pregnancy because of this. They have had an abortion because of this. And this has led to a backlash, a massive backlash, deservedly so. Because no matter how you slice it, ladies and gentlemen, they're basically killing their kid because having a kid with Down syndrome is not convenient for them. And they just don't want it. So rather than sucking it up and being parents, or giving the kid up for adoption, which would be the better option, they supposedly just killed the kid. Now, I say supposedly because it has come to my attention and the attention of others, over the past few days. Like I said, to be honest, I wasn't really, I'm not that familiar with Jesse Ridgway, McJuggernuggets, or any of his content. But like I said, from what I understand, he tends to make shit up a lot and do these, viral like shock and awe videos. Again, with the whole angry dad, smashing his kid's Xbox. Like that was one of those, fake viral videos early on. And same thing with his, with an immediate family member, supposedly having like terminal cancer. That was faked as well, and that's shitty. So there's been some speculation that he might be faking this too, that he and his wife might be faking this as well for clout, which is weird. I mean, in a really weird and like fucked up way, I can see why they might do that, because they need attention and because they need everyone, talking at them and giving them more views, which, congratulations. If that's the case, that's what they've gotten. But I mean, if that's the case, like, if they faked it, I suppose that's better in the sense that, like, they didn't actually abort some, like, a poor innocent kid. They just faked it. But at the same time, like, that's really, it's shitty either way, right? Like, if they aborted their kid, that is really shitty and just like downright evil. But then if they, if they faked it, if this is all like some elaborate prank and something like that, it's still like a fucked up thing to do. Right? And I suppose, like I said, I'm going to dive more into this on Wednesday's show with Max and Morthis, because I have some thoughts on this. And with Morthis being, a fellow-based cripple man, he and I definitely have some thoughts on this that I want to save for a conversation with, him. Max has famously talked about having, people in his immediate community that have Down syndrome and, are valued members of his community. So I want to add that conversation as well. But I do kind of want to play, this clip and also to bring up something that Morpheus brought up today on X. Because more people are questioning this whole Jesse Ridgway narrative. So I just want to play this real quick. So let's dive a little more into this Jesse Ridgway thing with this clip here. So I guess like Jesse is now saying he has neurological disorders. But yeah, he's also claiming that he's normal. I don't know if this is true. But let's dive into this clip, which, by the way, thank you, Mort. Very cool. Yeah,
of course I'm glad my dad didn't terminate me. But I'm normal.
That, of course, is Jesse Ridgway. Just days after announcing that he and his wife, Ashley, were...
Which, by the way, sorry to cut the clip off, like, so early here, but, like, what a... Like, that clip was only, like, what, 3 seconds? That's all I need to know what piece of shit this guy is. Oh, I'm glad my dad didn't terminate me, but hey, I'm normal. Tee-hee. What a fucking evil asshole.
were terminating their pregnancy because their child may have Down syndrome. And since the controversial announcement, the internet has exploded with varying opinions. But there's one thing that is not up for debate, is Ridgway's past and his controversial videos that blur the lines between fake and reality. For example, Ridgway once pretended to murder his own father, but the way it was filmed, it confused fans. It made them think that Ridgway had actually killed his father, and they overwhelmed police with 911 calls. Ridgway was forced to admit that the series was scripted and all fake. And that leads me to this. A few months.
So yeah. Oh yeah. So like, so I didn't even know that. Like I guess he fakes killed his father, which again, like, this is the type of like shit that like makes people hate YouTubers and internet people. And then unfortunately, like people like Max Morpheus and I, because we're on the internet, we get lumped in with these assholes, and it's like, no, we're not the same at all. I mean, faking murdering your father like for content, you know me, like I'm not a prude or anything like that, but like that seems pretty fucked up to even like, you know, fake patricide or something like that. Yeah, these people are just, like I said, whether or not the abortion thing is real or fake, it's just a shitty thing, honestly.
Months ago, Ridgway, along with his wife and parents, filmed this skit.
Go walk on a treadmill. Go home. Go. This isn't a public park.
I'm gonna be near you.
If your mom puts your
And I'm
mask
not
on, do
gonna
you
be
allow her
like
to do it?
breathing on you.
That's nothing new, dude. I have neurological issues. Bro, you're about to get on that side of the fence.
Sorry, I didn't realize you had AI generative talk inside you.
Stop trying to be topical just to get females.
In that episode, they revealed the gender of their baby, and they're very happy about it as they announce that it's going to be a boy. Now, I gotta admit, the videos are chaos. It's hard to tell what's real, what's fake, and even what's going on. Then, just moments later, they decide to film another video where their friend reads the results that their doctor sent them. Take a look.
So Jeffrey said there is a result. We were just about to film it. He's like, so you did see a help.
So I guess this is like what went viral at the end of last week. Again, like, I haven't seen this. I've seen other people talking about it. I've seen, his initial tweet on Twitter, which, again, we'll dive into all of that on Wednesday's show. But I guess this is kind of the, the whole, like, origin of all of this, from what I understand.
Health thing?
Yeah.
What was it?
High risk of Down syndrome.
Really?
19 out of 21.
What's that mean?
So, it said high risk, probability 19 out of 20 people that have this chromosomal makeup on this test have Down syndrome. So it could be not.
Did 19 out of 20 have it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how test results for Down syndrome are read, but either way, that little segment was odd. Then this happened.
We're all right. It's fine. I want to film this.
Well, now I'm worried.
Genders, everything's fine. It's just there's one of those like health related things.
What was it?
It's better if we probably film and then talk about it afterwards, or else it'll f up.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin the moment. There's nothing. It's one of these early test things that like we don't know.
Wait, whoa.
Oh, we're just gonna let you. The hell is that? Yo, hey! Yeah!
It's a boy.
I think.
Then after the video is done filming, it's time to reveal the news to his wife, Ashley.
Yeah, Jeffrey said, and I don't. Maybe you could speak to this, but there's a Down syndrome chance for the baby, but it's like 95 out of 100% chance.
The videos that Jesse Ridgway create are simply chaos, and it's hard to decipher what's real and what's simply fake. For now, everyone will simply have their opinions.
Okay, so that is the end of the video there, and so yeah, honestly, you kind of got like a little smorgas, a little sampler there of who this, Jesse Ridgway guy is, and his wife, and really his whole family. Like I said, they're all in on this, and they seem pretty despicable. But like I said, if they're faking this is shitty. But then if this is also real and they did actually abort the kid, like, it's not good. And they're treating Down syndrome as if it's like some terminal disease, and it's not. Like, yeah, Down syndrome is not easy for people that have it to, live with. Like, it is a condition in you. There are medical and mental and educational things that you have to take into account. But it's not a death sentence by any means. Like, there are people with Down syndrome who, are functional members of society. These pathetic people just don't want to deal with it, which is a shame, and it's disgusting, and it's really started a whole conversation about this, which I, for one, am actually glad, because it sparked a whole conversation kind of across the nation about, Down syndrome and how, people with Down syndrome are being treated in their families. And so maybe there's some, positive stuff to be had, with this conversation, but overall it's, in the case of the Ridgways, it's very dark. And yeah, I mean, I think he's disgusting and his wife is disgusting, and They're vile human beings, ultimately. But we will continue that conversation on Wednesday. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning into today's episode. Thank you very much for watching and tuning in. I will be back on Wednesday with Max, Morpheus, and Maxine for the Whitfield Report Live. Until then, take care. God bless. God save this great nation, and God freedom magazine in that order. We'll see you on the next show, ladies and gentlemen.
The right to offend is not some pesky little part of freedom of speech that we have to put up with. It is the heart and soul and lungs of freedom of speech. It is the coursing lifeblood of human progress. It is the instigator of liberty and modernity and science and understanding. What a laughing stock today's student leaders are, that they can so casually dismiss the right to be offensive without realizing that their lovely, enlightened lives are the gift of individuals who gave offense. Offensiveness is not just something we have to begrudgingly accept. Offensiveness is the motor of human progress.
Thank you for watching the Whitfield Report live on the Right to Offend Media Network. Make sure to check out Sam's books on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. You can follow Sam on X at SamW_NGC and the Right to Offend Media Network at RTO Media. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And until next time, God bless, God save this great nation. God, freedom, legacy, in that order.